What's up everyone, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing a beer from the Sloop Brewing Company, and they are out of Hopewell, Junction, New York, and this is their West Coast IPA. So this is a West Coast-style IPA that comes in at 7% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed in time of review, and this can is approximately 6 weeks old. So when I saw this one, I knew I had to grab it and review it as a shelfie beer for the month of August 2024. If you know Sloop, they're well known for their Juice Bomb IPA and all the different variants and offshoots of that beer. So if I see a West Coast IPA from Sloop, I'm going to give it a go because that, Juice Bomb is, they call it, I think, a Northeastern IPA, which is essentially a New England or a hazy IPA. So hopefully this is clear. A lot of West Coast IPAs nowadays, even though they say West Coast, aren't clear. But yeah, I don't know too much about this one. Try to look for information. I don't know, anything about, the hops in here or anything like that. So yeah, we're just going to try to figure out ourselves. So we're going to pour it in the glass here and, oh wow. Not only am I spilling it everywhere, I'm cheating. I did go a little bit aggressive there, so we're gonna get the Bounty paper towels. However, a little bit of a vibrant kind of look here to the head. It's very carbonated, we will say. Let me go back and not pour it as aggressively and see what happens here. What the fuck? Yeah, maybe I was just pouring a little bit too. I don't know. The head's generate. Like I'm barely pouring it. It's a little bit lively, which is cool. I think I'd rather have it lively and carbonated than the other way around, but yeah, I guess I'm not going to say it's my fault, but it might be a little bit my fault for this pour. So how does the pour look? Absolutely fucking horrendous. Almost a forefinger of a off-white, somewhat creamy looking, but also soap sudsy looking head. It has like smaller bubbles mixed in with like medium-sized bubbles. It's not going anywhere. It's very slowly moving and kind of dissipating. So there is a decent clarity to this beer, but it's not see-through. It's not like a lot of West Coast clear beer because there are a lot of fine particulates. A lot of fine particulates floating around in the beer. So that is unfortunate to some degree, but it looks like a West Coast IPA, but the only way you can tell it has a great clarity to it is if you hold it up to light. You can definitely see my hand through it, but on camera, it's probably going to look a little bit more hazy. So I think as a whole, maybe it doesn't look great as far as the style goes, but I think in person it looks a lot better than what you guys are going to see it on camera. And the fact that I poured it like an idiot, par for the course, baby. Let's get a nose. I have this backwards. What the fuck? That's pretty nice. Wow. Wow, aromatically speaking, this is spot on. Big, juicy, but yet pithy and kind of zesty citrus. Huge orange and tangerine. Ruby red grapefruit. A little bit of sweeter citrus, but oh man, it's big citrus in the nose. Ooh. Maybe a touch of like a pineapple or maybe a stone fruit, a mango perhaps. But what I love here is I'm getting this bready, slightly caramel base to it, and that's like an old school West Coast IPA. I feel like a lot of the new school West Coast IPAs, while they're absolutely delicious, they go with such a simplistic malt base that usually it's just like cracker or slightly bready, and you don't get the caramel, although caramel doesn't need to be like super present. But and a lot of folks, I think it's crystal malt is what a lot of places used to use. They give you the caramel. Also, caramel malt can give you the same thing, but I think it was crystal malt specifically in West Coast IPAs. So this has more of the old school West Coast IPA nose than it does like a new school. And then it has this beautiful, I wouldn't say piney, it's more like a floral kind of resiny note. But I'm surprised at how big the orange character in this one. It has a big pithy orange kind of feel to it. Yeah, it smells honestly pretty spot on for an old school West Coast IPA. All right, so good job to Sloop with the nose. Let's see how the taste is. Cheers, everyone. Not bad, not bad. Good job, Sloop. This isn't, I'll tell you right now, right off that first sip, this is not gonna surprise anybody. I don't think, people, there could be some people out there who drink this one and like lose their shit over it. I doubt it. But I don't know if anyone would be disappointed with this one knowing that they're calling this a West Coast IPA, because that's kind of what it is. Is it the best West Coast IPA I ever had? Far from it, but off of that first sip, it's really enjoyable. I meant to say that I saw a couple of my friends on Tap check this one in. Everyone had varying opinions on it, but a viewer of the channel, Michael, he said that this one was a borderline drain pour for him. It was like this weird astringent kind of finish. I am luckily not getting that. That's really cool. Look at that fucking glass lacing. I'm not, but there is a like moderate bitterness on the finish. One more sip and then we'll start actually reviewing this. So body on this one, bit thin. Medium, a touch under medium, 7%. I'd like to see it maybe medium, touch over medium. But it's just a bit thin, not a lot thin. So a little bit disappointed. The mouthfeel, it's crisp. It's relatively clean. I was going to say it's refreshing. It's not like super refreshing, I think, but it's crisp and it's clean. It has a nice moderate carbonation. It's smooth going down. So mouthfeel's nice and the body's a little bit lacking. The taste, however, right at the forefront, the main thing that I am getting is bread. It's bready with a hint of caramel instead of like it being the opposite way around, which is really nice. So I do get a little bit of that caramel, but the bread character from the malt really hitting me right at the forefront. Dives underneath the palate. Then the citrus is very intense. And on the taste, it's more of that pithy, rindy, bittering kind of citrus quality, like an orange peel, orange pith, grapefruit pith. And that hits me right, like I'd say a third of the way through the palate, middle of the tongue. It's slightly juicy, but the nose is more juicy. The taste is more pithy and bittering than juicy. As it passes through, you get a little bit of that mango, maybe a touch of apricot, pineapple. There's a smidge of like tropical and stone fruits hanging around, but it's not too big. And that finishes with this beautiful floral, slightly piney, resinous kind of bitterness. It's moderately bitter. It's hanging around on the back of the palate, so each sip, it's kind of building a little bit, although it's kind of tapered off now and is kind of just level. It's semi-dry. It's more bitter than dry. This definitely leans more bitter and dry than it does sweet, which is perfect for the style. I think this is really nice, and as I continue to drink on it, I'm actually more impressed with it as I take more sips. Again, and shout out to Joe over at Joe's Arcade. A lot of the times, he'll say it, and I remember Ryan Rashawn used to say it, an old school beer tuber who was from San Diego as well. They're very proud about their beers in California, especially when it comes to West Coast IPAs and hop forward beers in general. And I think Joe made a comment recently. I think it was Turbo Reaper from Three Floyds, that review I posted, and he's like, I always want to try, other beers, other West Coast style beers from outside of California, but it doesn't really make sense because we make a lot of good ones inside the state. And you could look at that and be like, oh, wow, he's a little bit conceited in that opinion, but he's not. It's true. You go to California, a lot of these California breweries, especially in Southern California, San Diego area and surrounding, like they know what they're doing when it comes to West Coast IPAs of all kinds. And I think if you hand this to somebody in California that drinks a lot of that, they're going to be like, yeah, this is all right, But outside of California and the West Coast in general, you get to the East Coast, there's not a lot of East Coast breweries just pumping out great West Coast style beers. Is this great? It is not. But I think for an East Coast brewery with a take on the West Coast style, they did a fucking pretty good job with it. When I first tasted it, honestly, first couple sips, I was thinking 3.75, 3.8 for a rating. But I'm gonna jack it up a little bit because I think it's pretty damn good. I'm fucking finished half of it already. Probably be done with this in 5 to 10 minutes. It doesn't have a ton of flavor, but the flavor there is the prototypical West Coast style IPA. You got the bready caramel malt. You got the big citrus vibes, a little bit of that tropical and stone fruit, that floral, slightly piney, resinous finish. It's moderately bitter. It's nicely balanced for what the style's supposed to be. When I mean balanced, I mean it leans bitter and dry. It's just real well done for a brewery that's known for haze. I think that's the way I would look at it. So I don't think this is amazing, but I think it's really nice. So I'm going to give Sloop's West Coast IPA, by the way, 7%. Yeah, you can tell it's kind of 7%, although the slightly thin body would maybe say more in like the 6.5 range, but 7%, so it hides it well to some degree. But I'm going to give this beer a high 4 out of 5. I'm going to go 4.1. I think that's where this one kind of lands, and I would say pick this one up. I think they, brew this one occasionally because a couple of the check-ins I saw on tap were like from like last year before, something like that, I think. Maybe not, I could be wrong, but if they do rebrew this one again, because by the time you see this review, it's probably gonna be close to maybe like 7 weeks, maybe 2 months old. Not super old to pick this one up, but if you want to, try it out relatively fresh, 6 weeks or so in my glass. But if you see a fresh can of this, grab it. give it a go, especially with like West Coast-style IPAs. I don't think it's going to blow your mind, but I think you'll be happy with it, especially when we talk about the price point and availability, which we'll do right now. So price point availability for this one. $11.99 here, a six-pack. $11.99 here, $11.99 six-pack here in the Buffalo, New York area. I picked this one up at a Wegmans grocery store in their mix a six-pack area. And then I saw six packs of it. It was $11.99. So I paid $12.99 for the mix packs or whatever, but $11.99 six pack. It might be a little bit more expensive, a little less expensive wherever you are. And then availability, I have no idea with Sloop. I remember when I reviewed Juice Bomb, it's almost been a couple years, and I remember people in like Florida being like, oh yeah, it's a grocery store beer here, which is crazy that Sloop, who used to have a lot of hype in the mid to late 2010s, is now in a grocery store in Florida just hanging out, which is wild to me. So I don't know where Sloop gets distro, but outside of being brewed at Hopewell, Junction, New York, where they're from, it also says Hampton, New Hampshire, so they contract brew this one. I don't know where this one specifically is. They don't say anything other than the canned on date. A lot of times it says brewed and whatever, but yeah, brewed and canned by Sloop. I'd imagine mine's coming from New York, but who knows? A lot of times with distro and weird shit, like this might be brewed in Hampton and they ship it back into New York, and that would be wild, but it could be the case. And again, I can't stress enough how awesome the glass lacing looks. Yeah, nice beer, 4.1. I could even be twisted to go to like in the low 4.25 realm, like 4.15, 4.2, but I go with 4.1. I'm going to keep with the rating. So if you've had this one before, post in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about it. If you've had Sloop beer, would you try this? Because my thought process picking this one up was I've had a Juice Bomb in a bunch of different variants. I've only reviewed a couple beers from Sloop, including Juice Bomb. So when I saw this one, I was like, I have to see what Sloop can do with the West Coast IPA. I'm pleasantly surprised. So appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. To the next one. Cheers.